Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation. And I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Woo! Good morning, Tommy Lewis. How are you, sir?
Hey, everything is good, Eric. It is April the 2nd, 2022.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yesterday was April the 1st. You know, in the little people, the younger people, they playing jokes on each other, April Fools and all that good stuff.
Right.
But I wanted to start real quick and throw it back to you that my team here at Make It Plain, they've been doing phenomenal work. And yesterday, and I'm not a April Fool's guy at all, right? And so I was offering up some bonuses.
Okay.
And a number of them came in. It was like, is this April Fool's? I said, no, I don't play with money. Right. I wouldn't write a check to say thank you and then April Fool's. No.
Right. Yeah, that is not funny at all.
That's not funny at all, right? So hey, it's great to have folks on the team that are human, as we all are, Eric, and we all weather what we weather. But for those who really go beyond the call of duty, and they do it behind the scenes,
right?
And they don't ask for anything. Before I would even, kind of honor myself, I will honor them.
Right.
I will honor them, and that's what I did on yesterday. And so, yeah, it's been a good week. It's a good start to the weekend.
That's good, Tommy. Well, I'm glad the sun is out today, and that it looks like spring is trying to fight its way back into Cincinnati, because winter had abducted spring and ran off with it. But Tommy, I tell you, this was a great week, man. I spent most of the week in Philadelphia and enjoyed being there, and had a chance to speak at a conference for Food Marketing Group, professional association, man, powerful event. I was there speaking and sort of had to do 5, different sessions, man, with these young people who are hungry to have the conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There was a keynote speaker there, Dr. Dana Bourne, who is with Harvard University, and she's a retired brigadier general with the United States Air Force, and phenomenal person. Tommy, we're going to have her on our show here in a couple of weeks. But I was just so blown away with her because she's so credentialed and so polished and so sharp. But when she started her presentation, Tommy, she said that as a child, she started off as a special needs student. And I was just blown away by that, man, because, we know that path that so many of our young people get put on, that when you have special needs, then it's great that there are curricula and other support systems to assist with that. But hopefully those systems are really assisting. And I think she was in a situation where she was getting the right kind of support and encouragement and training to help her understand her brain. Mm-hmm. And now that beautiful, brilliant brain has taken her to the highest levels. And I said to her, I said, look, every kid, every student in elementary schools and high schools across the country, around the world, need to hear her story. So that was really powerful, man. I was glad to have met her. Also had a chance to see Philly, man, and it's interesting that Philly moves from great wealth and lots of huge houses, to poverty along highways. It felt like sometimes for miles, and I was just reminded of the struggle that we still face. Tommy, also this week we had a chance to submit some final paperwork on a couple of groups that we're going to be working with. the ACT testing group. We're going to be working with some leaders that are associated with them, and also microbiology group. We're going to be doing some work with them as well. So I just found what their work so fascinating. And I was saying to them, wow, this is your space. You know, really, microbiologists are trying to study things at that micro level, things underneath the surface that we can't see, that have a great effect on all of life. And I believe that unconscious bias is in that family. And it shouldn't be a real big pivot for them to shift to trying to understand what are the things that are beneath the surface that are affecting us as people. If you look at all the negativity that's being hoisted upon us through media, Tommy, we're in trouble, man. We need to find some ways to get out of this. And so I'm glad to be back. I'll tell you this too, Tommy. Man, I was sent a couple of emails back to people and said, this is what a CEO looks like sometimes when all the staff has gone. You know, I had 3 staff members that were out this week, man, and I was dropping balls and I was writing letters crazy. You know, it was just hilarious, man. And so I'll be grateful to have everybody back next week. But remember my staff in prayer as well. And Tommy, I don't think that we can get started. We do want to say good morning to Terry Cooley and Ty Austin. Love you guys, man.
Yes,
so
sir.
glad you're joining us every morning. But I just want to get your take, Tommy, on the Will Smith slapping Chris Rock incident that has been the slap that has been heard around the world. What are your thoughts about that, man? Everybody's been talking about it.
Yeah, it's you know, I've talked about it once or twice, and it's still in the news, still in the rotation, so something must be with it. My short answer, Eric, is it's a combination of things. One, it's trauma. I think Will Smith has endured a lot of trauma in his life. For those who are less familiar, would like to invite you to take a read or a audio listen to his book, Will.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to it. I've watched it. He did exactly what he would do. You have to listen to his story in Philadelphia growing up under the regime of his father. This bubble that he created in his mind, as you're talking about the beautiful mind or beautiful brain, he created a bubble of imagination. And that bubble of imagination did not allow him to have as strong of self-esteem that he would like. And he had a false sense of the identity of manhood.
Right.
I'm not projecting. I'm simply sharing what he said in his book. He wrote this memoir, if you will. And so there's some history again with him and, Jada and Chris Rock. And at this moment, this event, he was emotionally hijacked and articulated his emotion by slapping or assaulting Chris Rock. Chris Rock responded the way he did. It could have been much worse. Could have been just straight up fisticuffs and a breakdown of everything. But at the end of the day, Eric, I think that, and I enjoy talking and listening to Terry Cooley as well, and the questions that we ask him in his manhood and his role in spirituality. We've asked certain questions around dealing with violence, physical violence, emotional violence, psychological violence, and this was a breakdown in control, and then it was a boulder that was thrown into the pond of stereotypes, discrimination, et cetera, such that a week later and many more months, if not years, for this annual event to happen, we will be revisiting the ripples of that boulder splashing into the psyche of, for the most part, white people with power. I told you that these expletives would act like this with power, money, and access. Let's pull back on giving them power, money, and access to our stuff. It's not just Will, Jada, and Chris Rock. It was a cultural shift. As they say back in the day in the 60s, the revolution will be televised. This event was televised. those are my thoughts, man.
Wow.
Besides that, I haven't given a lot of thought to
Right.
it. Some
Right.
considerable thought.
Right. Very profound and thoughtful. Tommy, I agree with you. I'll tell you what, I give a lot of kudos to Chris Rock for maintaining his composure and not letting that whole thing turn into a flat out melee.
Yep.
I'm surprised with all the protections that television has that it was even seen, Tommy. So I'm like, how did that even happen?
Yep.
That we saw it, and then I mean, when Will slapped Chris, he took a step toward Will, and then pulled himself back in.
Yep.
And then played it off with a joke. And I imagine that there were a number of things that may have been going through his mind. The first, maybe even questioning the joke, and how quickly can we run from funny and a joke to something that maybe has delivered trauma and harm to another, that has caused a reaction from her husband. And Will, on one of the greatest nights in his life, just got hijacked. His brain got hijacked. And he's up there now doing something that will be one of those kinds of things that you're remembered for the rest of your life. It's going to affect your whole career from here forward, every award that you can receive from here forward. People will pass that through the lens of worthiness. And it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, and only one slap sometimes to take that away. So I'll tell you, I think they're kind of working through it right now. We'll see where we go from here. I think he's resigned from the academy and tendered his resignation, and we'll see what other punishments they might levy against him. But we're living in tough times, man. And I would say to you that the other thing is all of it, I don't want to just come up with excuses, but all the COVID stuff that we're going through, Hollywood, these folks are in bubbles all the time, man. And when we see them on the big screens, Tommy, we just feel like they're famous people having an easy go of it. But there's a lot of stress and pressure and anxiety that they face in that bubble that sometimes can lead people to this kind of action.
Well, Eric, I would have to say too, I'm going to have to echo Terry Cooley. Eric, he slapped the wrong person. He slapped the wrong person. And here's why I say that. He slapped a man that, per his response, he's a comedian who is accustomed to and trained of giving verbal slapbacks, right? And at this moment, Chris Rock was able to absorb that slap, that event, and pivot to one, professionalism,
right?
To think about the event in past. And before I continue, let me pause. I was just watching about 3 days ago. I was watching an expert body language observer or expert body language and thing, and they were dissecting. It was like 35-minute.
Oh wow!
Deal. Right, they were dissecting Will and Chris.
Wow!
And their dissection of Chris Rock was phenomenal.
Okay.
And what he was saying, what he was doing, from his eye flutter to the stutter and all that good stuff. And basically they were saying that Chris Rock, he began to see the future of things to come in the moment. If he does this, this will be happening, this will happen, this will happen. And some of us see that.
Wow.
Right. So, in other words, I'm going to shift to me.
Right.
If I'm assaulted or whatever happens,
right,
my life, quote unquote, will flash before my eyes.
Right.
What does that look like? If I jump this dude,
right,
my wife may have to find me. I may do this. My children won't have this. I won't have this. I didn't prepare for this. I go through that real quick. You know what? Hold on.
Right.
Everything's not thought out.
Right.
right? Because I'm looking so far into the future. That's what they said Chris Rock was doing. I would also add that Eric, in the same vein, he may have smacked the right person.
Right.
Because I know with Big T Cooley and some other folks, you and I, he would have slapped the wrong person, not being as professional or disciplined. Because this past week, Eric, I've been in 2 meetings, working on a project for a number of months, and on this virtual meeting, in front of a dozen to 2 dozen people. Again, this is several months of working with this group. A woman verbally slapped me, and it was painfully obvious. So much so that I'm on the virtual link like this.
Right.
She says it. My administrator is in the next room. She can hear the assault.
Right.
She comes around the corner and you see me look to her.
Oh my. Right. She said, "Oh, I got to go in and grab Tommy because he says I'm crazy."
And what did I think? I thought, this woman does not want to see me in person. Eric, that's what I thought.
Right.
I was slapped. And
right.
Did that just happen? Did she just say that?
Right. It's the kind of thing that people have been doing with social media.
Yep.
You can hide behind social media, just say anything.
So I experienced the psychological slap, let alone the physical slap. And so as we dismount, from this and hopefully we get some healing, some people get some therapy and everything that they need. Even with the Smith, if you will, family, they may need some holistic hope, but ultimately what I can do and I will do, so I'm going to pray for everyone.
Yeah, man. I like that, Tommy. I agree with that totally, Tommy, because there's no winners in this, man. I was grateful at the way that Denzel jumped in. I mean, people have been coming out of the woodwork to have something to say. Did you hear OJ? I mean, OJ Simpson.
I didn't hear OJ, but I'm just reading T. Cooley.
OJ, be quiet. Nobody wants to hear anything you got to say, Brian. You can't relate with nobody. He's talking about, I understand what Will is going through. I was running the jokes of all. Man, bye. Bye now.
Hey, what did Terry Cooley say? Listen to Terry Cooley.
Right.
With love and joking. He should.
Hey, but I'll tell you, man, but interesting event, interesting. I would hope that I could have responded like Chris did, man, because he was a real professional, saved the evening. And I like that he was adamant that he didn't want to press charges. I thought that was noteworthy. I don't know. I might have had to do something like this, Tommy. Can we go to commercial?
Yeah.
like what is y'all doing? Go, cut.
Oh, yeah, I would have. I know I would have. Yeah, I would have stood there nice and calm.
Yeah, for real.
With my lips swelling up a little bit. Man, I can't really, my tongue waters on my throat. Hey, what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a pause for the cause as I'm staring right at Will Smith.
Right. I'm going to get paid now, bro.
Yep. I would be looking right at him like,
yeah.
You know what, Eric, for real, 100%.
Right.
I do know what I would have done. Right here, I would not have hit him back.
Right.
Hear me now.
Right.
Because I would have to be at a certain level of rage to do that.
Right.
Tommy Lewis, I'm more of a long-term thinker.
Right.
And unfortunately, I hold long-time grudges. So when he smacked me, I've been running through my playbook, my plan. We're going to go to break.
Right.
And I'm thinking, in 8 years, Will.
Right.
When folks have forgotten,
I'm
taking a photo image.
Right.
I remember it.
Right.
And I remember these things, man.
Right.
Yeah, I remember. So that's it, man. That's it.
Right. Terry says, where was the security?
Where was the security?
Right.
Where was the security?
And the thing is, last word on this.
Yeah.
People weren't sure what this was, man. It's so interesting to hear so many people act like they were certain of what happened and how the crowd was so wrong. They've given Will a standing ovation. Nobody knew what. I don't even think Chris Rock knew what happened, actually.
No.
I mean, he's still wondering, like, was that a part of the script that I didn't really, because he kind of turned it. Looked like he didn't take the full brunt of the slap, because many of us thought he had turned away on it. They're all actors. The Academy didn't really know. It wasn't until Will started cussing out loud and screaming that everybody was like, wow. So I think there's just a lot more to it, man. But life goes on. There's a lot of other stuff that has transpired that probably needs our attention. Today, one of the things that we wanted to talk about is this topic of appreciative inquiry. And I think that that's so, it's an important concept, Tommy, that's been out there for a long time. But I'm reading this book, Conversations Worth Having. And this book has really gotten my attention. And the concept of appreciative inquiry versus depreciative inquiry is, I'll give a definition here. Appreciative inquiry, or AI, is a strengths-based positive approach to leadership development and organizational change. That can be, appreciative inquiry can be applied to organizations, teams, or individual relationships as well. I know in our work, Tommy, so often we are focused on problem solving, gap analysis, getting in there and trying to diagnose where the weaknesses are so that you can shore up those organizations and strengthen those teams. And I've become a fan of this whole strengths focus, really looking at an individual's strengths and really trying to build on those versus that old school management philosophies of trying to focus on your weaknesses and building around those. Sports teams recognize that. They want to put people in places where they can operate out of their strengths. Peter Drucker defined leadership as an alignment of strengths that makes a system of weaknesses irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. An alignment of strengths. Isn't that powerful, Tommy?
That's powerful. What do you think about that, Eric? As I'm thinking about Peter Drucker's definition, what are your thoughts?
I tell you, my thoughts are, wow. That's overwhelming, man. And I believe that is a concept that marginalized communities need to embrace. In other words, if we're not careful, when we see each other, we can commiserate in our frustrations of the power of systems of oppression. And I am not suggesting that those systems don't need opposition and fight. But I'd say to you, Tommy, that if historically marginalized people, families, and communities began to get together and say, let's identify what all of our strengths are and how we can align ourselves around those strengths, man, I think if you do that, you're unstoppable. There's no weakness, there's no challengers that can ever defeat us if we are aligned and standing together, pooling our strengths. And what I see, Tommy, is all too often in this world that we live in, you feel like an individual who's fighting on an island by themselves. And that's almost how the world deals with you. The world only wants to hear from you, on sunny days when all is well. But on weekdays, man, shoot, nobody wants to hear you. They don't even want to see you coming. And I think that if we were able to look at those weekdays and say, hey, let's come together and see if there's a way to pivot to a positive, a silver lining, and then aligning ourselves together so that our strengths, our little strengths together, mount up to something greater. So that's my thinking on that, Tommy. I think that's a powerful statement, man.
I do too. As I'm thinking as well that it may be easier said than done, Eric, to really identify one's strengths. I mean, core strengths, not the strength or the kind of the attribute or the tool used in that moment, right? But a true strength is one that can that's consistent, that is it's measurable. Actually, that strength,
Right.
it's part of one's value system and
Right.
integrity
And DNA.
and DNA
Right.
and DNA, and sometimes that's difficult to put your thumb on because one person's true strengths or core strengths may be misread or misunderstood by other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Again, we were just talking about the response of Chris Rock.
Right.
And he got slapped on the cheek. As a Christian, we learn that Jesus said, turn the other cheek. Chris Rock did not respond. He literally turned the other cheek.
Right.
Right. And what you were just saying reminded me of, maybe there's a core strength that Chris Rock has.
Right.
That we outside of him didn't know he had.
Right.
Right. He may not have known he'd had it.
Absolutely.
Until, hey, here's the time to show your strength. And
Wow.
let's see what you're really about.
Right.
Truly about.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
double his shows. So
Yep.
he had out of that, he was doing a national tour. I think that thing started selling out everywhere.
Yep.
So in other words, the universe, the community lined up behind Chris Rock and said, man, we honor you. Yep. Now, certainly there were some people that want to just get there to hear the other half of the story.
Yeah.
But to his credit right now, he's chosen not to take advantage of this because I think that it's far more complex. But I want to go back to Peter Drucker, an alignment of strengths in a system that make weaknesses irrelevant. And I think that I would offer that to families.
I do too.
That in families, we have to know that we have each other's backs. In communities, in organizations, we have to be able to say to one another, I have your back in such a way that I want to make your weaknesses irrelevant. Right now, Tommy, we're going through things with a staff person that is going through some trials. And our entire staff has lined up like white blood cells, in our body that sort of come to an area of wound and really begin to try to bring healing. And so that's what people should do for one another, is align your strengths right now with what we're going through in this world, Tommy. COVID-19 is still chasing us around. I want people to understand that part of what you need in your life is to understand that you're not always going to have everything you need inside of yourself.
Right.
But you've got to make sure that you establish the kind of friends like a Terry Cooley, like a Tommy Lewis, like a Reggie Crane, like a Ken Wilson, like a Ty Austin and others, that when you are going through difficult times and you are afraid or scared, that you can align those strengths of others. Terry and I have had this conversation, and we said to each other, man, shoot, yeah, you're not even my friend if I can't tell you that I'm struggling and that does something inside of you. Tommy, I want you to know this. This is the last word, but I just feel it like I want to say it. I don't ever want you to ever be in a situation where you're struggling around anything that you don't think to call Eric Ellis.
Yes, sir.
Because it is my honor if you call me. It's not a burden. It's my honor. Because I love you as my brother. Those are the kind of relationships that we've got to start cultivating in this society.
Yes, sir, Eric. Yes, sir. And so that's so incredibly important, I think, with other people like you are part of my strength, right?
Right.
And we can look at Terry Cooley. He's a man's man, if
right.
you will,
right.
a large statute of a man. I have another friend who I've befriended over the last year and a half or 2 years, a former NFL football player. He's a big man. He's been a very strong man for most of his life. He's actually from California, living out here in Ohio. And talking with him, I realized that he's, a few years older than I am, but, he is like me. We're trying to figure it out.
Right.
So although I'm looking at this massive man,
Right.
I can talk to him man to man and connect with him, and his fears are my fears and his confidence is my confidence. And we learn from each other like that. We're actually going to have a little dinner tomorrow, my wife and his wife, etc., and sit down, and he's a jokester too. So he's like, loves just like Terry Cooley, what I'm saying? These big men, you don't want to cross them.
Right.
They'll make you laugh.
Huge hearts, man. Huge hearts. And I know that Terry, man, this is just so relevant. I know that Terry is a foster dad, and he's probably got 4 boys right now. And I just think about many of the stories that he's told to me. You see, when you are a big man like Terry and your friend, sometimes people think that that's where you're leading from. And they think that's where your strength comes from.
Right.
Your strength comes from your size. And they so underestimate or miss the entirety of Terry Cooley's strength.
Yep.
His greatest strength is not his physical strength. It is his love strength.
Yes.
It is his emotional strength. It is his brilliance of humor. I mean, he's a genius in his humor, and his understanding of people, has a high level of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
But a love that is transformative. And so when you talk about aligning strengths, that's what Terry is doing as a foster dad. He's literally taking these boys who've been in homes that couldn't hold them, that couldn't sustain them, that they just ran rampant and roughshod over those homes in ways that made the parents unsafe and the child unsafe. But when they come to Terry's Cooley's house, there is a love, a power, a humor that really transforms and aligns those strengths of those boys in ways that make their weaknesses irrelevant.
Wow.
And I just think that that's so powerful, man. It's what's needed right now, Tommy. And I just think that we've been hoodwinked in many ways into thinking that the way I support you is that when life is beating you up, I simply just commiserate with you in that failed state and heap onto you more examples of failures that I've experienced.
Oh,
I
my
don't think that's
gosh.
helpful at all to us.
Eric, man, you hit on something right there. That's the, maybe the crabs in the basket mentality. And crabs in the basket is not just seeing others trying to advance and you're pulling them down into the basket, but it's also, it could be psychologically.
Right.
Just again, some folks are trying to make it through whatever they're trying to make it through.
Right.
And part of that process is to expel some of the negativity. And as they're expelling the negativity, what some others might do, myself included, I might jump on with more negativity.
Right. I've done that.
Yeah. And then they say, you should feel bad. I felt bad. That's what happened to me. Right. I'm still not working through it. Haven't gotten over it. It's been 25 years. And I know you're just starting it. And so wait a minute, it's going to happen in 25 years. You're still going to be here. That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk.
We're not giving people what they need. So let me talk about a few other things, Tommy, that I think are helpful. I like to share these insights as we're going through. So this book, I want to recommend this book to people, Conversations Worth Having by Jackie Stavos and Sherry Torres.
Yep, Using Appreciative Inquiry to feel productive and meaningful engagement. Excellent. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to say that, and they have something in here, a concept, Tommy, that I think could be helpful as well to people as they talk about sort of find where this is. Generative questions. That's what I was looking for. Generative questions as a way of trying to surface things that are important. And they talk about the different aspects of generative questions. In other words, when you're in a conversation with someone and you want to be focused on a conversation worth having, they're giving you some of the techniques, some of the stages that you might go through. One of them is making what is invisible visible. The next one is creating shared understanding. The third one is generating new knowledge, and then inspiring possibilities. So instead of focusing on the negative, you want to try to focus on the positive, and you want to start by making what's invisible visible, and then creating a shared understanding. So if I'm working with somebody and we have a challenge, first of all, let's make that visible. What is the challenge that we're seeing? So that we can then get a shared understanding of what our challenge is, and then we want to generate. So that positive piece allows us to generate sort of new knowledge and inspire possibility thinking. That's one of the things about appreciative inquiry, is it helps us in possibility thinking versus hitting the wall of depreciative conversations, which really take us down more negatively.
So this answers a question that I may have shared with you offline, Eric, and I believe I did, where we're working with a client or a potential client, and I am really trying to surface their why. I am trying to surface their motives, if you will.
Right.
And so in the initial engagement, they articulated a need. In this case, hey, we need diversity, equity, and inclusion training.
Right.
And my energy said, okay, that's great. Why? Mm-hmm. Why do you need it? And what ultimately happened was in that first inquiry, it was like it's the right thing to do. And my mind, not my heart, but my mind said, that's a check the box.
Right.
And so now where I am, I'm trying to surface, really get to 4 or 5 questions that I can ask them,
right,
to have them surface why. Now, again, a little bit of background is that, this organization has never done this work before.
Right.
It's about 100 years old and never done this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
So that's one question I have, like, why now?
Right.
And not to, work ourselves out of a conversation or out of a partnership and anything, but it's after 100 years.
Right.
Why now? And I want to hear the truth.
Right.
So I transfer that, that same ask into my personal relationships.
Right. Hold on. Before you go further, hold that thought, because I want to go back there to where you were, Tommy.
Yeah.
And that is when the client looks like they want to do window dressing. So you and I were just talking about this. We've seen that before. And so our minds can go to, you say client window dressing, and I say, hey, I've seen that too, because that's what I said.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If we look at appreciative inquiry and conversations worth having, then maybe instead of assuming that they want to do window dressing, maybe we ask questions about what is it that you want to accomplish?
Yes.
What does it look like if diversity training was done well? What do you foresee trying to get out of this? If all goes well, what does it look like? What does it create in your organization if this was done well? What else would be needed in order to make this successful? So we start going a whole nother way, man, because our brain is already spiraling down I've seen this, this picture before. And I think that that's depreciative inquiry, that our job is to try to bring them to something that's more positive. Here's what the case for AI says. People like talking about their successes. They actively engage in discussions that focus on what works.
Yep.
That's one thing. When sharing positive stories with colleagues, people gain confidence in their ability to deliver. It's their experiences, not someone else's best practices. So have you all done any part of this before? What training have you done before that really worked and got people engaged? What did that look like? Who led it? What changes did it make? Now we're going a whole nother direction with something that you and they may have even come to us not fully certain that they wanted to do it for the right reasons.
Yep.
But appreciative inquiry says that you can start moving away from the negative and moving them into positive spaces. I think this is critical, probably even far more so in family relationships than even in business. But let me take a break.
Yeah, Eric, that was spot on. That was spot on. I think that what you just did is you shared some tactical and practical steps to transition from that kind of deficit model problem solving mindset into solution creating and forward thinking mindset, right? And so as we look at working with and engaging with our family members, obviously with our family members and close friends and those in our circle of trust, we have some history,
right?
And our history, we have those, those photos that capture the pleasant moments and the videos that capture the pleasant moments.
Right.
And then we have also in our minds, those movie reels that have captured the negative moments.
Right.
And what I'm hearing from you in this tool and this concept is that although we do have those negative pictures, a negative, or those negative movie reels, right? Just a bad movie.
Right.
We have the potential and we should be producing new movies, fresh content, fresh material, right? So just because you had one flop of a movie or an event doesn't mean that you can't do it anymore.
Right.
One loss in a baseball game or a basketball game or a football game, tennis match doesn't mean that I can't do it anymore.
Right.
One bad argument, right? A bad one that went grossly left,
right?
Doesn't mean that we can't have a loving, productive, and effective relationship moving forward. And so as we think about how do we inquire to show appreciation for the moment and the future is a shift in mindset.
Exactly. And so, Tommy, let's think about that on a personal level. Let's say my kid comes to me and says, I don't have any friends. They hate me. Well, what makes you say that? Well, they haven't called me in a week. Oh, you know what? What do you miss about them, or what do you like about them that you feel like you've been missing out on? Well, I like that they're this and that, and on good days we have fun and laugh. Is there any other explanation that you may have for why they haven't touched base with you? What do you like about them? Why is that friendship important to you? What does it look like when you all are having fun? What does that look like? Are there things that you can do to maybe stimulate that? Do you think there might be a justification for reaching out to them? Maybe something else is going. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you start switching people from the hole that they're in and painting the narrative of a negative conclusion before they ever talk to people. I know that God has had to say that to me over the years, Tommy. Sometimes when we haven't communicated with someone in a while, we fill in the blanks with a negative story, a negative narrative.
Yep.
And God has shown me that even if somebody feels something negative toward you and you haven't done anything, then it's not about you. there's possibly something else going on in their life. And how do you then not abandon them when they're going through the midst of that? How do you align yourself with them so that you might help them work through that and be a positive force to a negative situation?
Yeah, Eric, you're speaking power to my life right now. I do know, and I did hear you make the connection within the family and how appreciative. What's our term again?
Appreciative inquiry.
Appreciative inquiry. How that is useful in the family. I will be honest with you. I'm hearing this, and it's providing me a solution for the situation I have with one of the clients where I was verbally slapped across the face.
That's right.
And so that verbal slap actually happened twice.
Mm-hmm.
I was publicly embarrassed. I felt embarrassed because there was people that did not know the whole truth about the situation.
Right.
And one person blamed me for the situation, but that wasn't the truth at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let me bring some detail that's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to help some folks navigate a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And say we have 5 different conversations, and I'm just asking people around the room to share their thoughts and making sure that everyone has the microphone to speak. And in the first, second, and third time that we came together, about 50% of the people were talking. I continued to ask people, Eric, do you have anything to say? I said, no, not right now. I'm processing.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, do you have anything to say? Yeah, I'm processing as well. That was interesting. I did have a question, right? Not really something to say, but a question for clarity. And so 50% of the people were sharing things. And then at the 4th and 5th time coming together, I was asked to, kind of put a summary report together.
Mm-hmm.
And based on what people said. And I put that together, and it was about 50% of what people said.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the majority of the folks were really looking at me to say, what do we do?
Right.
I was, wait a minute. I wasn't asked to say what, from my perspective, what do we do?
Right.
I was asked to facilitate the conversation.
Right.
Eric, those are 2 different things.
Right. Exactly.
And so the first time I was slapped, it was more or less, well, Tommy, you didn't get everyone to talk.
Oh, right.
And I was a slap, and I went to, wait a minute, we all grown here.
Right. Right.
When I asked Eric, do you have anything to say? As an adult, you would say what you wanted to say.
Right.
And so that was shared. And then a few days later, it was shared again by a different person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so as I put a bow around this situation that I've been grappling with,
right,
I'm like, wait a minute, I'm really focusing on the negative. What you had me do, Eric, and where I am is, I don't know what's going on with them.
Right.
I don't. And at this point, I can only control what I can control, and I can control appreciating them.
Bingo.
Always being there. They're there every time.
That's right. That's right.
And I can appreciate, Eric, that they are leaning to me.
Bingo.
Right?
That's it.
Instead of me pointing the finger like,
that's it, Tommy.
That's it.
That's it. So 79% of people who leave their job have left it citing a lack of appreciation and recognition, a lack of appreciation and recognition. So in a situation where somebody slaps you with, I don't feel like you've, gotten people as engaged, you can bring up shared meaning, sort of make the invisible visible. So, you know what? Wow, this is powerful. So what I'm hearing is that I believe that we have great alignment around the importance of hearing from everybody here.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that, because I agree with that. And so my question to you is, given the fact that we all agree on that, what are some other suggestions that we might make about how we can operate in our time together so that we increase the likelihood of getting full and a more robust participation, which we all want?
Come on, Eric.
That's where it happens.
Come on,
That's
Eric.
where we go. When we start thinking differently, man, when we move away from our minds, natural move towards depreciative inquiry. Why did she say that? She attacked me. She slapped me. Okay. I take it completely out of that and say, hey, where do we have shared meaning? In this fact that we all agree that we want full participation. I'm just beginning to, I've known of this concept as you have for years, but I'm beginning to see, Tommy, the power of this in our personal lives and in our organizational work, because positive energy brings possibility thinking and innovation. And we've got to be in those spaces, not in places that take away the energy in the room, but places that add energy and cause people to think, oh, wow, he asked a question. He moved us away from this negative encounter and he moved us to engagement, because now everybody can bring into it what they've done. And so now we get a chance to tap into all the knowledge and talent and experience within the room.
When you said that, I thought of personal and professional health. Eric, I think that with this concept, we can become more healthy. As you mentioned, the stress and all this stuff that COVID the last 2.5 years has impacted humanity.
That's right.
As a whole, this world, our companies and organizations, and then us individually within our families, et cetera, that we need to be more healthy.
Right.
And if we're always looking back into the negative, we are re-traumatizing ourselves in dysfunction and in illness, right? Sickness.
Right.
So I think, man, you are on it with this concept. I've got to get that book.
Right. And here's the thing, Tommy, let's just look at it. So if we do nothing, you come to me saying you're oppressed, racism got you down. I say, I agree. Racism's winning over me too. All we're doing, Tommy, is digging a hole where we stand. All we're doing is going down, down, down where we stand, until we start saying, well, what does it look like if we pulled our monies together and got a few other folks and see if we might even be able to buy a company like this? Now, you know what, Tommy? Now we start digging forward. We literally are not going down here further, not helping our cause at all, only further explaining the negative, which does not allow us to utilize any of our intellectual resources and collective talents to move forward. Why sit ye here and die? Get up and walk.
Yep.
And so part of what we need to do is recognize our power, our collective power, to take inventory of our strengths. There was a whole thing around asset mapping. That was a concept in the early 2000s. Byron White did a lot of work in that space. Asset mapping, where you look at a community and begin to map the assets in that community, not just define the problems, but map the assets and then bring those together so that we can advance our collective opportunities.
This early morning, this afternoon, Eric, here in Cincinnati, Ohio, there's an opportunity for those who are looking to build wealth, future wealth through real estate.
Okay.
My cousin out of Indianapolis, he was born here in Cincinnati, but then transitioned to Indianapolis, has been doing a phenomenal job, Tony Jones, with building wealth for himself, his family, and his community.
Okay.
He owns a number of different very, very successful businesses, right? Again, he's flipping homes, building homes. He has a old school arcade, right? And he's engaging those who are familiar with arcade games, getting them outside of their homes and inside of a place arcade that we're used to.
Right.
He has a transportation company,
Okay.
that is competing with other major companies. Nonetheless, in Cincinnati, in the community here in Cincinnati, Ohio, there's a community called Springdale, Ohio, and there's a convention center.
Yeah.
And he's going to host with a national celebrity by the name of DJ Envy from the Breakfast Club.
Right.
And they're supposed to be close to about 7,500, upwards to 10,000 people there today. We'll see.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
We'll see.
Right.
And it's about, again, connecting networks, connecting within the community, the strengths of the assets in the community to build collective wealth. As you mentioned with Philadelphia, the disparity of the communities, the socioeconomic disparities from the uber wealthy to the abject poverty that not only Philadelphia, but other cities endure. This is opportunity. As you, and this, I wanted to make the shift because I was thinking, why was I going? And I'm not going to be there long.
Right.
But I'm
going to try to go too, Tommy. Tell me what time it is.
We'll do it. It will kick off around 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay.
And then actually doors open at 11.
Right.
And then they'll go until 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Right. But the reason why I wanted to go initially was because my cousin, who's a few years younger than me, I wanted to support him.
Right.
Right. I wanted to support Tony Jones, to see him and slap palms with him, give him a hug and say, I'm proud of you.
Right.
But then listening to you today, I'm thinking that he is part of my strength that I haven't been using.
Right.
Because he's been doing this for a while and he knows my business.
Right.
But enough with operating in silos.
That's it, Tommy.
Right.
That's it.
Enough of that.
Just
literally spread the wealth.
That's it right there. And I'll tell you that if we begin to embrace that, we move away from some training that has us always afraid of one another.
Yep.
And I would say that this is a solution that we need right now. And I would say we need to embrace this across racial groups as well, Tommy, that you and I know that one of the ways to bring down conscious and unconscious biases is by perspective taking, gaining the perspective of others, but building diverse relationships. Building relationships. We saw in this city just a few months ago, conservatives, liberals, black people, white, brown, all kind of colors, lip kissing over the Bengals.
Yeah.
In other words, we were in a place of strength, in a place of having like just a big party, and everything that divided us went away. And the one thing that tied us together was this awesome strength of winning and celebrating together. So, Tommy, I know, man, that we've got to move towards this space, the space that says that. Let me go back to Peter Drucker. An alignment of our strengths that make a system of weaknesses irrelevant. Wow, irrelevant. It don't even matter. In other words, by the time we put our strengths together, it don't matter what you got on the other side. You can't stop nothing.
You can't stop nothing, right?
How many teams have you been on where you knew that was the case? You can't stop.
Yeah. You can't stop us.
Right. And so that's the message that we want to deliver to the community today. This notion of conversations that are worth having. We are encouraging you to dive into the wells of positivity and strengths within yourself, that as you go to the world around you, you overwhelm discouragement, depression, negativity with strength, faith, possibility, and positivity. That with those things and God on your side, that's more than enough. Tommy, you got the final word, man.
Final word today is Thank God for Eric Ellis.
Woo! And
Thank
Tommy.
God. Yep. Thank God for our community who shows up on Saturday mornings.
Michael Jordan is with us, man. I hope he's still here, man. We love you and your family.
Yes, indeed.
And
yes,
his wife,
indeed.
beautiful people.
Beautiful people. And I would like to invite all of us to share this and other shows, podcasts with our family, to create your own. Right? It may not be on the national podcast or whatever, or local, whatever. It may be the podcast of 4 or 5 right there in your living room.
That's right.
Right. And that we should use some tools that we're learning. Eric is sharing, I may share, others may share to strengthen our community at large. Those are my final words, Eric. Man, it's been a blessing, a privilege, as always, to come together every Saturday morning for these talks.
Absolutely, Tommy. We love you, community. Go forth throughout the week, having powerful, positive, diversity conversations. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye, y'all.